Um, so hi. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be making this video either. So recently, over the course of several weeks, I have been watching Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Now, obviously, unless you're living under a rock, you have at least heard of these shows. Widely considered to be some of the greatest TV to be put on air, it's really good. And I'm not about to be that person that's like, well, actually, Breaking Bad isn't good because, no, come on. There are a million different video essays out there already discussing Breaking Bad in detail, from its themes about morality, greed, trauma, so much more. And out of all of them, I'm here choosing to talk about gender. Yeah. Okay, so it's not like gender isn't important to talk about this day and age, especially with media, but Breaking Bad? Seriously. If I wanted to talk about gender, I could talk about things like Barbie, Little Woman, literally anything else that discusses the importance of gender and woman in a more significant way. So why am I out here trying to talk about the significance of gender in a show that's about cooking meth? Well, firstly, it's because far more talented people have already talked about Barbie and Little Woman at length. And also because I want to explore the female characters in Breaking Bad, because in a show like Breaking Bad, which has a plethora of intentional details in the show, I kind of want to examine the relationships and see if gender plays a role into that. So, yeah. So, if we want to talk about the female characters in the show first, then let's look at some of the woman characters in the show, which is not hard because there are not many of them that have an impact. I mean, Murray's main role is mostly in relation to her husband Hank. Andrea and Jane's main role is kind of that they die. And even a character like Gretchen, who barely shows up, only really exists so she can add a small twist to Walt's plan. Which is cool and all, that's cool, but really, it's not really that much. And look, I'm not going to be that person on the internet that's going to be like, Breaking Bad is sexist, because first of all, that's not even true. None of the female characters are portrayed in a negative, misogynistic light. And that's not even their only character trait if they are portrayed like that. If you want a show that does not have depth to its female characters, and is actually misogynistic, there is a plethora of options. Have you seen how many harem anime there are? But in any case, this show isn't even about the woman characters. It's the Walt and Jesse show. The writers are obviously going to put significance to the parts that they think need significance. And obviously, in Breaking Bad, the things that need significance aren't going to be the female characters. It's going to be Walt and Jesse and whatever they're doing. But it still stands that a lot of the female characters don't really get that much of a role in Breaking Bad, which is fine. Well, that would be the case, except...
My name is Skyler White, yo. My husband is Walter White, yo.
Skyler White is a pretty significant character in the Breaking Bad universe. And probably the most hated, too, next to, I don't know, Chuck McGill, which is... that is just wild to think about, bro. But regardless of your feelings towards her, she is a very interesting character in the show. She's the first character in Walt's life to figure out that he is a drug dealer, and from then on, she plays a pretty significant role in laundering his money and lying for Walt, even adding her own twists at one point against him. And also, this is not part of the video, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but I genuinely believe that Skyler White is so much of a better liar than Walt. It is not even funny. If she was dealing meth, I doubt she would be in trouble as much as Walt is, because she is such a better liar. At first in the series, Skyler is shown as always in opposition to Walt, constantly questioning what he's doing, and from what I've seen, I think that's probably one of the reasons that she's one of the most hated characters in the show. Walter is the main character, and we as the audience know at the beginning of the series, he is making meth under the pretense of protecting his family. And the show is basically a thought experiment in that case. Because if you think about it, the first episode is really sympathetic towards Walter. Walter gets a lot of sympathy points. The pilot is to hook you, to make you feel sorry for him in a sense. That's why Breaking Bad's pilot is really good. Because in the first episode, you relate to Walter, you want to see him win. And the rest of the series kind of challenges that to see how far are you going to go for this guy? Because as you see him do more moral, reprehensible actions, it becomes harder and harder to justify it. But we still do. A lot of the audience still roots for Walter. And Skyler, a lot of her complaints here are kind of reasonable. Like, Walter should not have dealt meth. That is obvious. Walter should not have treated killing someone as just something that happened on a regular Tuesday. Walter should not have laundered money. Walter should not have done a lot of the things he did in the series. But we, as the audience, still feel sympathy for him. Because we're shown why he does it, how he does it, everything. And even if why he does it isn't a justification, we still like it. We still want to see it happen. So Skyler, being a voice of reason here, is immediately told to shut up, along with a lot of the other characters in the series who are told to shut up, because we want to see Walter win. I mean, despite me saying that Skyler is a voice of reason in the show, she is shown doing some morbidly reprehensible things herself. She does make mistakes, obviously. I mean, in the beginning of the series, she's shown smoking a cigarette while pregnant. I mean, imagine that. Not only is she affecting herself, but she could be affecting her future child. Imagine potentially harming and poisoning a child in this show. Hey, wait a sec!
Editing Cloud here. I do want to say smoking a cigarette while pregnant isn't justifiable. You shouldn't do that. But, yeah, it was just a joke. So, yeah, don't take it too seriously.
But regardless, Skyler does make a lot of mistakes in the show. There's the aforementioned smoking, cheating on Walt with Ted, trying to help Ted, even though, I don't know, man, he's just so stupid, and this show does not need as much scenes with Skyler and Ted as it does. They're so painful to sit through. I don't know why there's so many of those scenes. But regardless, the fact that she makes these mistakes is ultimately still good character writing. See, in media, there are constant traps writers fall into when creating female characters.
Alright, so editor me here again. I do want to preface this part because I talk about how media portrays women, how writers write women. I make a generalization about that here. In reality, there are plenty of ways to write female characters that are both good and both bad. It really just depends on the type of story you're trying to write. I make a bit of a generalization here. I just want to say that I don't think that's totally true in every case. It's more just a generalization.
One is just playing into stereotypes, making oblivious and dumb, or making them just extra mean, and just making them really big stereotypes. And the other one is overcorrecting and making them so perfect, so no flaws at all, that your audience can't call you misogynistic, even though it kind of is misogynistic to do that. But Skyler doesn't really fit into these boxes because she makes mistakes, but almost all of her mistakes can be seen as reasonable or human. Her decision to cheat on Walt is in response to Walt forcing his way back into the house. Skyler's inability to demean or fully confront Walt on her causes her to do this. She is written like an actual character would be. So I think I've already mentioned it, but there is a constant theme of toxic masculinity in Breaking Bad. In fact, there is a video by Tim's Video Essays that talks a bit more in depth about that, which I highly go ask that you check out, because ultimately it's a really good video. It's part of the reason why I'm making this video in the first place. But anyway, toxic masculinity is kind of a present thing in Breaking Bad, especially if you look at Walter's character. If you look at it more, he starts in the series as more of a more emasculate, passive man. You may even call him emasculine. But as the series goes on, his more negative masculine traits start to come out, and it's ultimately what leads to his downfall. And I think the same can be applied to Skyler White in a more subtle way and about femininity. So let's define femininity first. So obviously, femininity and womanhood are two separate things. Femininity can be extended to men. There can be a lot more effeminate men out there. And there can be more masculine women. It's not really a competition. There are all types of characters out there. And all of them relate to gender and femininity and masculinity in different ways. But in terms of Breaking Bad, there aren't that many effeminate characters, aside from the female ones. In terms of Skyler White, she actually starts off as a balance between masculine and feminine traits. Even though she's a bit more feminine, she's shown wearing dresses, and if you look at that color theory that they have, I think it has a theme about that. I'm not sure. Might be wrong. I might have to check that. But in terms of her character, she is shown being a bit more assertive towards Walt in the beginning, constantly questioning where he is, sometimes even yelling, having full-blown arguments, and she takes initiative in a lot of things. She calls Gretchen. She even decides to go get a job on her own. But as the series kind of goes on, we can see a lot more of the female traits that are associated with negative things start to come out. For example, her more, I guess you can call it risqueness with Ted. That is commonly associated with a thing about misogynistic female traits. Which, I'm not going to be honest, I'm not going to be like, Skyler White's character is misogynistic, which is not true at all. But I do have to say that part of her character is like that. And it's a good thing that it's not all of her character because it would be misogynistic, but part of it is there. And as we go on, she is shown being a lot more passive towards Walt and his more toxic masculine traits. Being passive is associated with a lot more of the feminine and more negative feminine traits. In this case, Skyler could kind of be a foil to Walt here. If Walt's arc was going from a more emasculate man to a more toxic masculine man, and if Skyler's arc was going from a more masculine woman to a more feminine woman, in both negative regards, this can lead to what ultimately leads to their downfall. Although, again, I might just be reading into it too much, but it does kind of make sense. They foil each other in some sense. You can see how Skyler kind of ends the series as a passive woman. Walt ends the series as a hero who comes to his own hubris. It's kind of like a Greek fairy tale or something. But like I said, maybe I'm reading into it too much. I am so tired. I do not want to keep recording this video. So, we are done. That is it. There are no more female characters to discuss in the Breaking Bad universe. Wait a second. Why do I feel like I'm forgetting something?
That's it?
Okay, look, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This video was going to talk about Skyler and Kim, but there was actually enough to cover with Skyler, and I realized that I wanted to get this video out relatively quickly. I'll be honest with you guys. This might be the most messy video I've ever made, because I've made the script in one day. I have been recording this in one day. I am so tired. School has been so much, you guys. You have no idea. But I did want to talk about this. So I will eventually talk about Kim. It might be a couple videos from now. It might be the next video I make. I don't know. Please be patient. I am sorry if this video turns out to be a kind of babbling mess. Like I said, I'm really tired. But I hope you guys come back for the next video or something. I don't know. Like or subscribe or I don't know. Thanks for watching, guys.